These are the top 3 best and worst animated movies of the year so far. In last place is Garfield. I have so many problems with this movie, but I think my main one is that it doesn't even feel like a Garfield film. This is just super generic and they slap these characters over to try to get people to go and see it. I think Chris Pratt has been getting a little bit too much hate for his voice acting lately, like stuff like Mario. I think he's actually perfectly fine in that movie, but in Garfield, he is just completely phoning it in. The same can be said for like the rest of the cast, honestly. Like Hannah Waddingham, I really love in everything else she's been in, especially Ted Lasso. Her voice acting in this is just unlistenable almost. Obviously, this is a film made for kids, but half of the movie is either spent trying to make jokes for the adults in the audience to be like, hey adults, don't walk out of the theater because you're so bored, here's a joke for you, or doing product placement for things like Tinder and Bumble. So it's not an entertaining movie on its own for kids standards, and the jokes that they're trying to throw to keep adults entertained in the audience are also terrible. Third best of the year for me is Inside Out 2. This was such a pleasant surprise for me, and I really liked the first Inside Out movie, but I didn't love it or anything. I honestly think Inside Out 2 might be the better film. I love all the new emotion characters that they add in this, particularly Anxiety as kind of like the antagonist, quote unquote villain, even though she's not really evil. I think Maya Hawke did an amazing job on the voice of this character, and I just love how this is a great portrayal of anxiety, because we've had so many bad portrayals of this, especially in kids films lately. I also really like how we get to see a lot more of Riley in the real world and how the emotions and stuff going on inside her head are actually affecting her, and her with the whole hockey tournament. I thought that was a really interesting angle to take that improved on the formula of the first movie and making it feel fresh. Listen, I'll admit this movie doesn't get to the emotional highs and deep moments that the first film does, but there still are emotional moments in this film, especially towards the end, and it makes up for it with this film being way funnier than the first in my opinion. Like there are so many laugh out loud moments in this movie. This is a movie I wasn't really anticipating at all. I just thought it was going to be a perfectly fine sequel, but it actually ended up being one of my favorites of the year. Second worst of the year is Despicable Me 4. This thing should barely even count as a movie because you can literally tell they had no idea what to do for the story of this. They have nothing to do with Gru in this movie. He literally goes on a side quest in the middle of the film for like 30 minutes to go get a stupid badger. It has probably the worst villains, even though there's great voice actors behind them. They are just so unbelievably forgettable and honestly underused in this movie. They're done with so fast. The Mega Minions are the most obvious marketing ploy of all time. Like the Minions in general have almost nothing to do in this movie and maybe like 3 minutes of screen time, particularly the Mega Minions, but yet they were like the huge marketing focus. Pretty much the only redeeming quality of this movie is that Pharrell Williams is guaranteed to give us a banger song whenever he does it. For no matter how bad the movie is, he gives it 110%, and the Who Will He Be Tonight song is an absolute banger. Second best is Transformers 1. This movie wins the award of having the worst trailer but being the best movie, because this thing just looks so unbelievably childish and goofy in the trailers. The animation didn't look great. It looked like it was just going to be a complete flop of a movie. Sadly, it was a flop box office wise, probably because of the trailer. The film itself is actually incredible. First of all, while I still am not the biggest fan of the character models, the animation and fight scenes in this movie, particularly in the last 30 minutes, get absolutely insane. There's so many fun uses of all the actual transforming quickly into different things, hitting combos on people. This also just serves as a perfect origin story for both Optimus Prime and Megatron. It feels like we finally have a definitive origin to point to and say, hey, this is exactly how it happened. The movie's also really funny too. Like I was laughing so much, especially at Bumblebee's lines. Honestly, Keegan-Michael Key as the voice of Bumblebee might be one of my favorite comedic performances of the entire year. Even his line delivery of things like Bad Acetron and them keep going back to that joke, it was so funny. But then as I was talking about earlier, the last like 20-30 minutes of this movie absolutely lock in. We get so serious and the moments get so epic in a way that I was not expecting. I don't think anybody's surprised if you watch any video on my channel or if you've watched this movie that the number one worst of the year is Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate. I've gone over it a bunch, so I'll keep it pretty brief, but we all know the problems with this movie, and it's essentially everything. Again, just another cash grab of a movie trying to capitalize on the Megamind name, but they didn't want to put in any effort into this movie whatsoever. We didn't bring back any of the original voice cast that was so charming, like Will Ferrell as Megamind. The movie desperately misses him. The animation literally looks 10 years older than the original Megamind movie, which is already over 10 years old, which makes no sense. Don't even get me started on the actual Doom Syndicate themselves. These are such nothing characters. I swear everybody that's voicing these has never done voice acting a day in their life. Complete disaster of a movie. I cannot wait till we're in next year and I can leave this off all the worst of lists. I cannot wait to move on from this movie for good. Let me know in the comments below your favorite and least favorite animated movie of the year. My number one is The Wild Robot. This is so close with Transformers 1. I have them both at a 9 out of 10, but I'm gonna go with this at number one for now because I think from start to finish it's actually the better, more complete movie. I wasn't really familiar with the story. I could tell from the trailers it was gonna try to be super heartwarming. I was like, how heartwarming can the story between a robot and this little gooseling thing really be? And yeah, I was wrong. This thing hit like an absolute emotional bag of bricks. The dynamic between those two and then Fink the Fox is so good. Every single frame of this movie, I've said it before, you could pause this at any point and it looks like a wallpaper. This is some of the most gorgeous animation I've ever seen in my life. These scenes are already incredible on their own, and then you add on top just an incredible score that just swells up in these moments and really gets you just caught up in all these emotions of these characters. It's not even like emotional, like, oh, it's just sad all the time. Like, yeah, there are sad moments, but there's also moments that it just feels so much joy for the characters, and it just makes you just feel all of the emotions all at once. Watching this, I'm assuming you're a fan of animation, so click above me to watch my reaction to the first 3 episodes of Arcane Season 2, and spoiler alert, I am just raving about them. I absolutely love these first 3 episodes.